Hey, welcome back to the DealMachine podcast. I'm David, the co-founder of DealMachine, the software for giving you data on who'd be wanting to sell for a discount. This podcast helps you guys who are in your 9 to 5 and want more out of life see how that path is possible through wholesaling real estate. Today, our guest is Garcia, who lives in Miami. He's 21 years old. He's been wholesaling since he was 18, and he's doing 8 deals per month. This is going to blow your mind, especially if you're over the age of 21 like I am, on how inspiring and what level of success can come in this business from intense focus. Welcome back to the DealMachine podcast. We've got Dylan Garcia here. Welcome to the podcast, Dylan. Can you tell us about your business?
So I run a high-scale wholesale real estate operation. I'm closing from 5 to 8 deals per month. I started when I was 18. I'm now 21, and it's very, very lucrative, and it's done very well for me.
Dang. So 8 to 12 deals per month wholesaling. How are you even finding those deals?
So I do a lot of bulk data cold calling. I run Facebook ads, and I do PPC.
And when you're 18, how did you get into this? That's very young.
I saw a video on Instagram, and it made me think, okay, there's somebody who makes a regular person's income for the year in a month. How can I do this? And then how can I replicate it over and over again? So it really was just the idea of me figuring out something that was bigger than myself, like a real estate transaction. And that's really what made me want to get into it. And I literally started by calling random lists of people, not even Zillow, not even anything. Like I found somebody on Facebook. I was like, okay, you're my mentor. He gave me a list of 50 people and I just started calling.
And tell me about that first deal that you got. Who was it? What'd they say whenever you called them?
So it took me a year and a half of calling to get my first deal because I had no direction, no systems and processes, no scripts, none of the correct things you actually need to have a lot of success within this business. And I could have done it a lot sooner if I would have realized. But it was a deal in Jacksonville, Florida. It was listed on Zillow for $210,000. I don't know what happened. I picked it up at $37,000 and I sold it at $107,000. So
what do you mean you don't know what happened? What did the seller say? Why was he wanting to sell it?
It was a realtor, and I price dropped them from $220,000 to $37,000. So it wasn't typical. That's not normally going to happen, and I wouldn't expect that to happen to a random person. But I got it for $37,000. I sold it for $107,000. But there was a joint venture, so I had to give him. I ended up getting like $60,000 for my first wholesale deal.
Well, tell me about this property. Certainly, there must have been like some reason why they were willing to entertain such a big price drop.
Well, it was a motivated seller. They were on market for over 100 days. The realtor looks at me and he says, hey, Dylan, she just wants to get rid of it. She doesn't care about what's going on. This is how much is owed. This is how much she needs. So I understood the situation. I saw it was a motivated seller. There happened to be a realtor in the middle, but luckily, and it ended up going very smooth. And that was my first real estate transaction. I made $60,000 from a wholesale deal.
What was the person that you did the JV with? Was that your mentor that you found in a Facebook group?
No, that one was actually Richard Taylor.
Nice. All right. I'm familiar with him. So he was the video that inspired you. And right, is that right? Is it one of his videos had inspired you?
It wasn't his video that first ever got me into it, but I'll tell you what, I learned a lot from his group and I appreciate it. And they definitely have good resources for people that are starting.
When it's a listed property, I guess, did the agent make their typical 3% or how did you handle that? I actually haven't done a deal that's listed before.
So the seller
and wholesaled it. I bought off the market. I just haven't wholesaled it.
Yeah, it's not typical. It's really not. The realtor 99% of the time doesn't want you to make money as a wholesaler. So it's very hard to get around that. But the seller ended up compensating the realtor. And I guess he got his 3% from the seller. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have to do anything on my end.
Was the house like run down?
The house was very run down. It was like 2,500 square feet. It was a huge single family in Jacksonville, Florida.
So what would a price in perfect condition go for there, you think?
It sold on market after. I'll tell you how much it sold for. I would say Mm. I haven't looked at this one in over a year. 250K maybe.
Okay,
Around
got
there.
it. So they were asking almost full price, but the house was quite run down.
Yes, that
So
was the case.
that
So it
was the
sat on
problem. It was kind
market.
of wishful thinking on the listing price.
Yeah, so it just sat on market until the motivation built, and then nobody wanted to touch it after a while.
It makes sense, especially if it's run down. A typical retail buyer wouldn't be able to qualify for it either because it needs repairs and it wouldn't qualify for a loan, right?
Yeah.
So who did you and the JV partner, Richard, who did you guys end up selling it to? Do you remember that guy and how you found him?
So Richard found that for me. That was a part of his JV program, and that's why
Right.
I will definitely, to an extent, vouch for him. He has good systems in place. If anybody's just starting, he makes it to where you don't have to think as much as it was just you running your operation. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I definitely recommend if somebody's doing their first deal that if they don't know, who to sell it to, that they bring it to somebody they've met at a meetup locally that is trustworthy and do a JV, right? And that person will maybe help you realize you don't have it under the price low enough and maybe help you renegotiate. That's often a common beginner mistake, but it seems like you did great on that. How did you even come up with the 37,000, by the way? Because I mean, was it just random? That's a huge discount, right?
Yes. So the way the 37,000 came about is the guy comes to me straight up. I already knew it was a deal from the beginning, just by the way they were speaking. You could kind of feel it. But the guy goes, she needs 50,000. And then I said no again because obviously I know how to negotiate. You don't ever say yes to the first price. I said no again. And then I said 30,000. And then he said no to me. And then he said she needs 37,000. And then that's when I agreed.
Okay. Well, that is atypical. And I was curious, maybe what's the second deal? Knowing that might not be a big one that people will get, but maybe the second one would be more typical that you could tell us about.
I've done a lot of them, so it's really hard for me to remember. But I think the second one actually was a subject to that I sold to Richard Taylor for a $5,000 assignment. It was in Indiana. It's like South Bend, Indiana, something like that. And really a big thing I would say about that is notice how the last one was cash. This one's sub two. The next may be seller finance. You just always got to know how to handle every single deal that you come across and always be the person with the solution. And that's how I found success.
How did you know that this second property was going to have to be a subject to deal?
So the person, if they would have went cash, they would have lost. They would have lost money, or it was a trust acquisition. They would have lost money if it was a traditional cash sale between closing costs, realtor fees, and whatever was owed on the property. So I put something together where they could walk away from their existing rate. I could pick that up at it was like a 3% flat interest rate. So it was or 2.8, something crazy. It was like a 2.8% interest rate, which any investor is going to want to pick up. And I gave them like 10K down. So they're walking away with that money down. They're letting me take their position in the mortgage. And I sold those purchasing rights to an investor because they're good. They're sought after.
What did you set the fee at for the investor?
So I could have got more if I didn't sell it to Richard, but he wanted it. So he just told me he was paying 5,000. He probably could have gave me 10 and it would have still definitely made sense, but that's just the way it happened. So it's all good.
Oh, I got you. So that's great. He's come through multiple times for you. And I'm curious now that you've been doing it for probably a year or two since then, are you still selling most of your deals in partnership with Richard or anyone else?
No, zero. I handle everything myself.
So talk about the transition from, relying on a JV partner to selling maybe your first deal on your own.
For a lot of people, they need that type of system. They need somebody to rely on. I would say less than 20% of people are fully ready to handle the change themselves because Richard provides TCs. He disposes the deal for you. He gives you contracts. All you have to do is lock it up. If you have questions, he has people there to help you. So, and there's even JV partners in there. So And that's not just his Discord. A lot of different ones are like that. That's just an example. But he provides a lot of things. A lot of people aren't willing to just go and handle the first step by themselves. Oh, go online and go find a TC. Go online and go find buyers in Facebook groups. Understand how to post deals the right way. So it's kind of a gap of information that he has and you don't, and a lack of execution that most people aren't ready to handle something like that because it's more pressure. It's a lot more pressure.
But how did you end up finding your first buyer that you found on your own?
Really, that was all Facebook groups and Investorlift. I pay for Investorlift.
Got
So
it.
those are the two main ways. And I'm also skip tracing most of the purchasing LLCs in the area, and I'm having my dispo call all of those and present the deal.
What would your post look like in a Facebook group?
It's going to have price point, area, zip code, rehab comps in the area, pictures of the property, and really just any other information you think somebody would need to know to feel comfortable in that investment. Any details?
You don't put the address though.
Not always. You have to know how to vet. So if somebody you can tell you met them off Facebook, okay, this is just another wholesaler that's trying to push it. This is New Western trying to push one of my deals. You have to be able to feel a lot of those things. But if you could tell you're talking to a 50-year-old guy and he knows every single thing about the market and he tells you he's buying 20 flips a month, I mean, you have to be able to identify that.
Plus, you could also look that up in DealMachine.
Yes.
You can just look up one of his houses, and you can see his entire portfolio on the right.
Yes.
How does Investorlift work? What do you do? How do you do it on there?
Really, I don't use it too much anymore because I'm basically built in every market I want to be in. But you post a deal and it also gives you every purchasing LLC in the area. So it's very, very easy for Dispo, as well as DealMachine makes Dispo very easy because you could just click cash buyers, sold properties in the area, put the same criteria, make a little circle, and call all of those skip trace buyers. So it's the same thing. You don't need any fancy type of software to really get it done. It's all the same thing all around.
DealMachine is fancy. No, I'm just kidding. No, one thing I like to do in DealMachine is if it's like a 3-2 in Jacksonville, Florida, I will filter for 3-2s in Jacksonville, Florida in DealMachine, not clicking the cash buyer list, but then I'll say also absentee owner and purchased within the last 3 years. And then that will give me the literally people who bought a house just like that, in the last 3 years. And it does include the individuals too, because I myself, I own 9 rental properties in my own name. I didn't start using the LLC until I had reached over 10, when I had to do the DSCR loans after that, couldn't get the government loans after that. So the first 10 were in my own name. So that opens up additional potential buyers for you that wouldn't maybe show up in just the LLC.
Yes.
The third thing you said, though, was you said Facebook groups, Investorlift, and what was the third thing? You dispo people's call in the LLCs?
Yeah. Just like exactly what you said. I just click cash buyers, circle an area, fit the criteria of the house I'm doing, and then I just have my dispo call everybody.
And who is your dispo, and how did you find them?
All in-house. Everything I do is in-house. So a lot of my team I met from Discord. I did close one of the biggest deals out of Richard Taylor's Discord. So a lot of people flooded my inbox just from there. I mean, over time, I meet people on TikTok all the time when I post. That's another way. Instagram, a lot of people reach out to me, and then the rest is virtual assistants.
When you say people reach out to you on Instagram, are they looking to buy properties from you, or are they wanting to learn how to wholesale?
So I've probably gotten 3 to 4 buyers from my Instagram, but yeah, the rest of them are just younger people, wholesalers, people my age that want to figure out how to make $20,000 or $30,000 a month.
And what do you do to help them out, if anything? Not saying you need to.
I have to really believe in somebody to even offer them my guidance, to even offer them a mentorship, because I don't really do things halfway. If you're doing something with me and you're getting in with me, I want you to have results, but this is not an easy business for that to happen. It's not like life insurance with a smaller sale, 200-300 bucks. You could make a couple sales in a day, in a week, whatever. It's not like that. It's either you're making $0 at the end of the month or you're making 20K. That's how this business is. So that's why I don't typically help a lot of people unless I see some sort of
Yeah.
fire in them, something I maybe saw in myself.
How do you know? What tells you that they have that fire? Because sometimes people will say, I've got the fire, but that's a little different.
For sure. So it's like the same thing as vetting buyers. You just have to be able to depict what is going on. You have to be able to feel all the emotions and not only what they say. Everybody's going to say they got it. Everybody's going to say they could do it 10 out of 10 times. But then you look at the results and it's probably 1% of people that actually do it. I mean, the biggest thing in my mind is if I tell you, okay, my mentorship's $5,000, that's the biggest way to wipe everybody out who's not going to do the work, because that person who's ready to invest in themselves is going to put up that money. It's the same thing I did. I found a mentor, I paid him the money, and that's what it was. And I made so much from that. I learned so many lessons. I talked to my mentor on a daily basis. So I would say if you want to skip time and cut through all the BS, go find a mentor.
So I'm curious on the cold calling side of things. You're pulling your data from DealMachine, and maybe other places too. I'm not sure. But then did you originally call yourself, or did you go straight to hiring somebody else to make cold calls?
No, you can never out hire too early or else your whole business is going to go in the dump. So if you don't understand wholesaling, whatever it is, data pooling, whatever the business may be, anything in the world, if you don't know it front to back, you're not going to have success, because that person's going to need help along the lines and you've never been there yourself. So I cold called for a year and a half before I ever got my first deal, and I never bought a VA prior to that.
Smart. Big fan of that. Yeah. So you got your first deal and then you hired somebody else to do it because you
Yes.
had the experience to understand if the VA was doing a good job or not, and if they were maybe bullshitting you or not in terms of, results that they were getting, or if they were logged into the dialer and charging you for hourly stuff that they were maybe not working. That just helps you see through that when you've done it yourself, right?
Yes.
And have empathy for their job, which is hard if you've been
Yes.
through it yourself.
Yes. For sure. And I'd say
I like it.
you definitely need to be careful with what companies you're getting virtual assistants from. A lot of them, they're going to screw you over. A big majority of them. Data, you will get screwed over with data. You better work with DealMachine. I'm telling you, it's one of the best. I mean, there's so many other things I could tell you. I just can't think of them off the top of the head. You need to be careful and do research into where you're actually putting your money.
So on the DealMachine side, you're exporting only the owners, not the family renters or potential owners, right?
Yeah, no, I mainly just go after primary owner.
That's a big deal in terms of export settings and how it affects your contact rate. How did you decide to start also doing Facebook ads in addition to cold calling? And at what point did you do that?
So really, I believe, and what my mentor taught me is I believe you need to do multiple things to have success. For instance, income. I like to stack my income in many different ways. I might do affiliate links. I might sell mentorships. I might run a wholesale business. I might have another business on the side. So that's just four right there. So really, you want to stack as many things as you can, whether that's cold calling, Facebook ads, any other form of marketing you can think of. You want to stack all of them because you might get 2 deals here, 4 deals from here, 5 deals from here, and 1 from here. And then the next month, it might be all different. So, but you also have to be able to handle that. And you also have to be very organized, be very good at systems and processes. But that's what I would say when you get to a higher scale level.
What would you say your cost per deal is on the Facebook ads versus the cold calling?
So cold calling overall, as far as my systems, I get it done very cheap. I would say per close, you're saying, right? For both, per close.
Yeah.
Yes. Ads, it's going to take more money, maybe 1,000 to 2,000, and cold calling, $500, anywhere from like 3 to 500 to 600 around there.
Do you know how many calls that would be per lead or per deal? Just to give
I would
people a
say
good
with
benchmark.
every 50 calls, you should be able to get a lead. And I would say you need to have your people at least making 150 to 200 calls per day. So that's 4 leads per day per caller. I wouldn't know the metrics after that. I'd have to sit down and look at my KPIs, but that's standard what I go by. And if you want to know more into that, I just use Eric Klein's KPIs. They made a whole YouTube video about it, 40 minutes long.
I would just be curious. Have you ever had problems cold calling where you had to adjust something, like you had to adjust what the caller was saying, or you had to adjust the list that you're pulling? What list do you pull actually?
I do a lot of absentee. I do a lot of senior owner, tax delinquent, and those are my top 3, and downsizing, top 4. So I'm sorry, say your question again. I answered the first part. What was the second?
You did. The second part was, have you ever had a problem where your cold caller wasn't getting enough leads? And like, how did you go about adjusting that?
So if you don't understand the business front to back, you're not going to be able to do this exact thing that we're talking about with adjusting the cold caller, because you have to understand these people are from Egypt. They're from the Philippines. They're from other sides of the world. So they were trained to speak English. They were taught. But here and there, they're going to say things that David and I would immediately know they're not from the US. And that will eventually happen within their sentences. So if you're not a person that can sit there and just listen to the call going and pause everything and say, that right there, fix that right there.
Right. Just like example of something I fixed was, I wish you have a great day. I just don't think we would say that. So like, I hope you have a great day.
Exactly. Things like that. Or like when they say property instead of house, like I think house sounds a lot more casual. They'll be like, do you want to sell your property? I say, do you want an offer on your house? Mm-hmm. So one sounds very pushy, less US, and the other sounds more casual and like I've lived here my whole life. So just small things like that we would notice from living here. And tonality. So I'm very, very big on tonality, because I believe we can say the exact same thing, but I will get a different result because I just say it better, I sound better, and I do it better. So tonality is a very big thing. Somebody can repeat what I say word for word. You can use my script, but you can't recreate it because you don't know how it sounds front to back.
One of the things I did want to go back to is you said every 50 calls should be a lead. And I just wanted to clarify, because some people call leads different things. Some people. So how do you define a lead?
So funny you say that. I just rebuilt my whole system. So I have all of them as prospects. When they're cold, they're prospects, an unchecked lead. Then I have leads, and then I have properties under contract. So all of these are prospects, and you call 50 prospects to get one lead. And that one lead is going to consist of the 4 pillars of motivation. Really, it's going to have a condition report. That's what you want your callers to get, a condition report, an ideal price point. Whoever says price first loses every time. It's going to consist of any other important information that seller may tell you. If their dad's dying, if there's something going on in the family, if they need to move to get closer to their daughter. And those are the main things I look for when having my callers qualify and identify.
Got it. When you say 50 calls, do you mean that you call 50 numbers, or you call until you have 50 people pick up? Surely you mean the second one, right?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Yeah. So I just want to clarify
one call,
that.
Everybody has to call minimum twice. All prospects get called twice and a text.
Yeah. But you're not saying it's you're not saying like 50, because if you call 50 prospects, you're not going to get 50 people that answer. You might get 8 to 25% of the list that answers, right? And those are what you're calling a call, 50 in the 50.
Yes. 50 pickups.
50 conversations. Yeah.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Is that true even on a general absentee list with no other motivation at all? Certainly it would change by the list you're pulling, because absentee list is very broad. There's a lot of absentee owners out there and they don't want to sell. So I'm just making sure for somebody listening, I don't want them to get depressed if they've made, 50 calls and they didn't get a lead or something, so that's what I'm at. Just kind of dive into.
Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned 4 lists. You said there's downsizing, senior owners, absentee, and something else. So the senior owners would definitely be more motivated than just general absentee, I would think. So the leads that you would get from that list would be a different ratio, right?
Yes. So I'm going to drop this sauce on the podcast that I just found out the other day, bro. So as far as lists, right? A lot of people will pull lists forever and never look into anything, never look the full way through. What I found out is I've started rating each one of my lists, each one of the areas, zip codes, and filters. So by keeping much more track of my data, I've been able to identify where do I need to do more volume? Where do I need to pull back on? What filters are working for me? What filters work in this market? What are my best markets? So that really you don't have to go off of somebody else's word like, oh, this market's good and this is happening here. No, you need to understand how to do that type of market research for yourself. That's a very big thing. I'm very big on market research and understanding buyers. You need to understand what your buyers are buying, how much they're buying, when they want to buy, everything beginning to end, typical problems you might have with them. If you don't know these types of things, you're not going to be successful on a higher scale.
Thank you for dropping that sauce. As we kind of were wrapping up, I was curious about wrestling. I noticed that was one of your Instagram posts from back in the day.
Yes.
Well, I just want to know. It seems like you're very successful at a young age, and I'm curious if there's anything from wrestling or that you've, drawn from and brought into your real estate business to be successful.
So I believe a lot of athletes could be successful, but they do nothing with the mindset that was implemented on them. Everything I do, the type of discipline I have, the level of intensity I have, how hard I take the grind, all of that stems from wrestling and God, those two things. So I was number 1 in the state of Florida for a long time. For a couple years, I was high school, state champion, all that, lost it, everything happened. So
Wait, how'd you lose it? What do you mean?
So my junior year, I got 5th. And my senior year, I was number 1 in the state the whole year. And I beat the kid who won it at regionals, like the competition before. It's regionals and then states. I beat the kid who won it like 10-0, all that. And I got to states, and I'm not too sure what exactly happened, but I completely folded everything. I lost everything. And that's okay. That's okay because that made me step out in the business world and really realize, and it put a big fire in me. So I just applied all that pain I had, all of those concepts that I learned, I put it into business, and then I became successful.
Got it.
That's my story with that.
Yeah, when you're wrestling, if you let up, you're going to get beat and hurt.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
I love it. Well, you guys make sure to check out Dylan Garcia. It's Dylan.Garcia007 on Instagram. What's your TikTok?
My TikTok is DealCloser1.
Dylan, I really appreciate you sharing many things on this podcast that I know will be helpful. I personally enjoyed the conversation very much, and I wish you well. What are you going to go do the rest of today? Like, how are you going to spend a Wednesday?
So the rest of the day and all other 6 days of the week, I'm working on my sales team and I'm checking through.
Oh, wait, they're right there live. You just watching them live in a Google chat?
Yeah. So everybody I do, all of my VAs, everybody that works for me, they have to have their camera on and they have to be screen sharing. I've noticed most of the time when not I want to keep track of every single thing you do, but a lot of times if you leave people alone for 5-6 hours and you go back and see what they're doing, they're not really doing anything.
That's game changer right there. And if they're just doing something the wrong way or different, you could just
now I know and I
do
can
that
fix it
in person and give like more rapid feedback. I was just talking with somebody who said for months their cold caller just was literally lying about how much they were calling, and that's 2 hands off, right? And that person also is looking for their first deal. So they shouldn't have even had a cold caller, in my opinion, until they done one themselves. But that's for a different story on a different day.
I mean, yeah, I agree. That's why all of these things I've learned, I do everything a very particular way for exactly what you said. You don't know if they're calling, so I got to see it live.
Love it. Well, thank you, Dylan. I hope we can do another one of these and check in. It was very inspiring for me, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it, David. Have a good day.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.